Everybody, are y'all good?
Yeah, everybody with snow.
Yeah. So, all right, so we're going to start our PBA negotiations for November 19th, 2020. And I think we should go around, since this is audio, and introduce ourselves for the purposes of the audio. I know we also have sent around a sign-up sheet. So, Kristen?
Kristen Huell with the County Attorney's Office.
Janice Gilly, Escambia County.
Janice Still, Escambia County HR.
Chief Rich Bob Corrections.
Scott Nash Corrections.
Alani Wilson, Work Annex.
Jason Santos, Work Annex.
Lloyd Dibble, jail.
Christopher Smith, jail.
James Newton, PBA President.
Lacey Corona, legal counsel for PBA.
Alan Miller, Staff Rep Negotiator for Board of PBA.
Okay. All right, so we thank y'all for coming back today. You know, I would start this by saying, you know, what I said whenever I first came to this first one, I guess a year ago, that, you know, your safety is really, really important to us. And part of that safety for us is making sure that we do have a fully staffed corrections department, so, because I think that helps with your safety. I think, you know, as we know, these are tight times in terms of just manpower in general. Talent acquisition is difficult for almost every industry right now. Last time when we were with you, we discussed, you know, starting wages and then making sure that we didn't have compression amongst those first couple of wage rates with your officers. And then we also talked about a leave redemption program. So we've rehanded those back out to you. We've also looked at anything else that we could possibly provide. And what I would say is this, you know, I think we all know that there have been 7 years, 7 good years, with 3% raises for the entire county and their employees. I understand that it's your position to look out for your employees and your bargaining unit, but it's my responsibility to look out for all the employees of the county. So we have continued to look at your you know, your benefits in terms of the incentives that you have and, you know, the different packages that you have available to you. We have something to provide today, but it is not a specific wage increase. It is another amenity that we can provide to you. But we're more than happy to have you look at that, and then we can discuss it, and then kind of go from there. And we did note, I think you have
want me to
those,
go ahead,
yeah.
ma'am?
So, and we did note on the proposal that we provided you that you did verbally accept, but I understand there were caveats related to that, so we probably need to, you know, discuss that as well. The wage proposal for those new officers or those with less than 1 year as part of the conversation. So, you know, as I said, we've looked at benefits at the state and other places, and you know, as we've said before, y'all do have a lot of those incentives, and we can certainly talk about each of those incentives. But the one thing that we do know that we did see somewhere else that you didn't have was a little bit richer allowance for your. I don't think there was already allowance for the boots, so that is a new benefit. And then we increased the benefit to the officers at the work annex. So that would be what we would be able to provide as an enhanced incentive to your current package. And I would say that is our offer.
So $150 boot allowance is your counter to our pay proposal.
It is, sir. Yes, sir, it is.
In addition to the other things that were offered at the last session.
Yes, in addition to the ones that we had already shared with you.
Which you're referring to the new officers' pay increase.
Yes, and any officers that are currently in that pay, so that they don't, that hourly base wage rate, or, you know, a trainee so that they don't have compression.
That's in the, under the safety. No way it'll pass.
I understand that. I understand what you're saying, Alan, but this is what we have. This is our offer. When, when we continue to go through the other articles, if we do that, the wage reopener is always something, if there are better times, financial times, or if the, county has other opportunities, you can certainly go back and do a wage reopener and have a conversation. I think part of the issue is that, I think all of you know that there are organizations that are having to lay people off. There are people that don't necessarily, they're having financial issues. And we are trying very, very hard to make sure that we maintain the services that we provide with the number of employees that we have. And we are trying to grow the number of employees. And I have looked at other entities in terms of the salaries that they provide. We did a study I actually did a third-party analysis, somebody who doesn't have any affiliation with the county, and just had them look at the salaries. And our salaries are not out of line with your occupation.
Who did these
Do you have a hard copy
studies?
of that, ma'am, that we can see, or is that confidential?
Oh, it's not
That's-
confidential. I can get it.
Okay.
Then who did the study?
It wasn't, I would say it was an analysis of the positions. The company's called MZ.
And who did it?
MZ, called MZ. They're a national company that looks at talent acquisition and looks at positions that are available.
Huh? Just EMT's got a pay raise. They have the money for EMTs, but not for public safety.
So, in all fairness, if you'd like to bring that up, I'm more than happy to address that with you. So the EMTs and the paramedics, we did a cost analysis for their positions, and they were underfunded in the region.
And you did one 4 years ago with the sheriff's department and corrections, and it came back that we were underfunded. And then you said last time we were in here that the reason why it's a faulty survey is because because of the money. That's what you said, that's what the fault is because you'd have to pay out too much money to these officers that work every day.
That's not
That's
the
what you
only
said.
fault of the study.
That's what was said on the
We
record.
can go back and listen to
Okay,
it.
you can go back and look at it, that that's what was said in here.
The Evergreen one you're referring to? The
Whichever
cost of
one.
that would have been astronomical, but that was not the only problem with that study.
What was the other
$1.40 pay raise for a
problem?
correctional officer. Two for
So
sergeant.
$2.23 is too much money for all the corrections officers. So you're telling me that a $150 boot allowance, I'm gonna go to 300 officers and tell them that's what they're worth, $150. And then you want me
No,
to
what
go
I
to
hope
them
you'll
and tell
tell them
20
is that
officers
they
they're
got
gonna get
7 years
a
of
44
3%
cent
raises
raise.
when most individuals in the community did not get 7 years of 3%
When they can drive
raises.
30 minutes across the bridge and go get a $6,000 pay raise.
Where's that at?
Santa Rosa.
They're full. There's no vacancies.
Well,
You can't use, and I'll just speak up because I've heard that several times. If they had 50 vacancies, I should say sure. But there's actual waiting list right now. I speak to them.
I understand that.
So let's keep it out.
But we keep losing, y'all keep losing people 2 or 3 a week from your own jail, going other places, going back to the state. You just
Please tell me
had,
those names because
since
I see them.
October, you've had 45 overtime positions, asking for people to come in and work because you don't have enough people to run you.
Well, if we
run
want
the
to
jail.
discuss why we don't have people at work, we can. And I will tell you, it's by virtue of this DOR. Between 5 and 10 people a day are not available when they should be, based off of the scheduling rotation.
If you can't afford to give them a raise, you can't afford to pay them to come in and work their DOR.
I'm not arguing that point, you're absolutely right, Alan. That's why you haven't heard me say anything, but I just don't want to hear that they're going across the bridge when they're not.
I can't give you the names because of confidentiality.
I signed
But-
every one of them.
I understand.
I see the people that leave.
But I've signed up, I know of about 3 back at state prison.
Sure. Understand.
And that one, and of course, I don't know their work history with y'all. And,
I do.
well, but, you know, they give me multiple reasons.
Sure.
And I have to look through, you know,
Got it.
to get the multiple reasons, and I get it. There's a lot more work at times because of different issues at the jail that you don't have in state prison because you're not constantly moving people for court and all that kind of stuff. But they are going back to state prison for lesser wages, which, and lesser benefits, which,
And most of them live over there.
yeah,
Or further out.
yeah, well, there's
They're
one.
driving past multiple agencies to get here. And then you realize.
I got one that left Escambia County and lives in Escambia County, went all the way to Walton County, because that's where an opening was. But I don't know why he went all the way over there, because Santa Rosa's got probably 200 openings.
Santa Rosa CI.
CI
Yes.
has about 200 openings, and
Yeah. Problem is, all of us in the region are competing for the same body.
Correct.
Somebody who's qualified and can meet the hiring requirements.
And another thing is, I think is of issue is we're not looking at the totality, like the total picture, and that if you only focus on the entrance, the difference in the entrance between Santa Rosa and Escambia, then yeah, it's gonna look like it's more of a stark difference than if you focus on the other differences that are already inured to Escambia County corrections officers that build throughout their career. Y'all have more incentive pays built in than Santa Rosa County does.
So then why are we having a problem getting people? I know officers that haven't had a vacation in well over a year. I asked for 4 simple days this year. 4. You know how many I got? Uno. Okay? And I'm not the only one. Across the shifts, they complain to me, hey, I haven't had a vacation. I don't have any time off. You know?
I've
You might
kinda
wanna
seen
do
the
a little bit-
opposite
no,
problem.
hold over, please, if you don't mind. You might want to dig a little bit deeper into that, because there's still people taking day whiffs with the DOR, people that are not taking off or not at work and still being given a DOR when their time doesn't amount to the dollar amount or the hour amount. So if we're going to scrutinize things, we can start scrutinizing. Because if you really want to look at the absentee rate, I've got stuff, I can blow your mind with the numbers.
I understand that, but I'm saying that the officers across the shifts that I talk to have not had any time off. Me personally, no time. Okay? No vacation. Everybody liked a vacation, wasn't they? Some time off? You know, I
We've
mean,
been dealing with unprecedented time, let's be real. We're dealing with, how many major storms have hit the area?
Well, every other week we
National
have to
pandemic.
prepare for one.
This entire summer and fall and spring has been unlike never before. And the staff has stepped up to the plate, absolutely 100%. You guys gotta remember, I'm on your side. We work this facility, we work these facilities, all right? But if the funds aren't there to support a raise, they're just not there. You can't make money appear.
Right. But at the same time, I know that Ms. Gilly said that for 7 years, we've had plenty, but of those 7 years, every year, the medical insurance has went up. So we don't, even though you say we get a 3% raise, we're not actually getting a 3% raise because something else goes up. You understand what I'm saying?
I do, and I will,
And
and we
I
think,
did-
we took, I'm sorry, I want you to finish. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yes, ma'am. But I just, when you say that, it seems like, well, yeah, y'all got 21%. Well, no, we didn't. When you take into consideration what everything else went up, we didn't, that's not what we got. I mean, it sounds good coming from the management side, but over here on the worker bee side, that's not actual fact. Does that make sense?
It does,
Okay.
it does, and I can only speak for last year and this year
Yes,
in
ma'am.
terms of the insurance,
I-
and we did try very
I got
hard
you.
to
I
make.
understand.
I mean, I can tell you that we worked for weeks to try and diminish the
And only one
impact.
plan had their premiums go up, the others didn't, and the commissioners agreed to give we went from $600 to $1,000 that are being given for those that have the HSA. And then they even gave more for the opt-out. So you are correct. It is a push and pull. We are trying to balance it out.
Well, and I would
I
add
think
too-
the same thing has to do with Manning. It is a push and pull. Hiring people is a
Correct.
push and pull. It's just not so simple, so, 30 or 20 cents and expect to get the cream of the crop. And I've been doing this for 10 years, so I know. I worked at a prison, I worked at work release, and now I'm at the annex. So I understand, you're always gonna have a Manning issue. You're gonna have people that just gonna bang out with a DOR, and because when I was working at prison, there was no DOR. And we were working maybe 2 people in the dorm, and somebody had to go across the walkway to help do security checks and all that stuff. It's an issue. It is an issue. I just, how do you get around that issue?
Well,
I
some
mean,
of
it's-
getting around that, and it's not a matter of getting around it, is when I first got here 2 years ago, I did analysis of the facilities. And I found it to be willfully undermanned, especially moving into the new facility.
Yes, sir.
And we've brought on multiple, over almost 100 positions. And now I've got to recruit for them. And one of them is this wage proposal at the opening, and is going to give us opportunity to hopefully draw some more talent, quality talent at that. But it's not a matter of not wanting to put bodies in the position. They're just not here. They're just not in the county. They're not in the Tri-County area. People don't want to come work with us. That's the problem. We work in a profession that has been shunned and blasted for the last 18-plus months in our nation. So it is now affected here. Whereas this used to be an aspiring place to come work at one time, but nationally now, law enforcement is looked down upon. So we have to rebuild that. We are behind the scenes, you guys don't see it, but we are putting together an entire new recruitment process and recruiting campaign to fill these vacancies. So at the main facility, that these voids and the overtime drops down and people are available to come to work. We've got 12 in the academy right now. I just authorized them to post another 30 positions, correctional officer positions, and get them recruited for, both certified and uncertified. I think there's upwards to 10 people that are coming from other agencies into our agency that are in the hiring queue right now. So it's a constant, ebb and flow of individuals. A lot of the people that were commented on that are leaving are retiring. You can't say that that's a departure. That's somebody who's eligible for retirement.
And natural attrition, yeah, I get it.
Somebody chases a blue light. We've had a couple people go be truck drivers, because they want to get out and get on the road. We can't compete with that. So we're gonna have people leave our organization, especially when you got 600 bodies in it. The attrition rate is not because of the environment. It truly is because they're seeking other opportunities, they are simply looking, they're retiring out, or they're moving closer to their home to work. We can't fight that. Everybody has a reason to leave. But when we do these exit interviews, some of them, and we look at the staff are leaving, a lot of them are leaving, and you guys may not see it, in lieu of discipline. In lieu of termination, they drop a resignation, saves us the hassle of going through a grievance process with them. So that several of the resignations we've had lately are because they were going to be disciplined out of the organization. But that story never hits troops. And that's fine, I understand that. But that story never gets told. I would say probably 1 out of every 10, if not 5, it's greater than 10, it's probably 1 out of every 7 that has left this organization in the last 2 years has been in lieu of termination. That's because we're trying to make it a better organization and holding people accountable for their conduct and lack of responsibility in the workplace.
Well, and hopefully have a new facility
Absolutely.
that matches that commitment.
And if we can bring in, if we can bring in the good quality people, that's why we're making the push for the base wage. Because if you can bring in more quality people up front, then you can work to keep them and retain them. And that's why this is not a never thing. That's why the wage reopener was offered. It's not a never thing. It's not feasible right now to be able to touch every single one of the officers there. So we're trying to focus on the beginning so we can start from the beginning and build the base up. And again, it's not a never thing. It's just right now it's not feasible. Like he said, if we don't have the money, we don't have the money.
But as under management rights, if you want to increase it, you could increase it. You don't need ours.
But wages,
Wages are a mandatory bargaining.
Well, they're listed in the contract, so they have to be bargained for, unfortunately.
Y'all give us a
Love
few
you
minutes.
to.
Yeah, do you want us to
Kristen was
go in
gonna
there?
make a comment.
Oh, okay, sorry, Kristen.
No, this was regarding the health insurance. I worked in private sector before I took a public sector job, and I can speak from personal experience in saying that in public sector, my benefits package is far better. The health insurance, the quality of and coverage is far better than anything I had in private practice. And I think that's, a significant benefit working for the county, not to mention, especially with the kind of year we've had with the pandemic, in the private sector, there isn't any job security. People are losing their jobs. And thankfully, so far, the county hasn't had to lay anyone off as a result of that. So that's just,
And we did do an analysis as part of our information that we provided related to our health insurance. We did do that analysis to show you where your package, the county's package, how it relates to other communities, how it relates to other governmental entities and stuff like that. And it's a good package. And I know it's not free, but it is an affordable package. So I would say that. So, we have looked at all the different opportunities for incentive and things like that for you all, and y'all have been very fortunate you have them. So you have them. So we did try and find something that you didn't have that we could provide you. So,
And while wages are important and imperative, and that's definitely understandable, there are other ways to bring job satisfaction, increase employee engagement, and make people want to come to work. I mean, there are other ways that you can do it aside from just wages, and that's just other things to look in terms of like getting creative. I mean, if you hate your job, and no matter how much money you make, eventually you're going to burn out and you're going to be done with
Oh,
it.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but it helps.
I know. So I started off by saying, I understand
It sure
that
doesn't hurt.
no one's going to do this for free. I get it.
all right, so he wants.
Yes, I'm sorry,
wants
you
to
did
leave?
ask. We can leave.
We'll step out. No, you got microphone up here.
Well, yeah. Do you want me to take you to a secured room, or y'all just want to go hang out in the hall? Okay.
Okay.
When do you plan on implementing the 1707 beginning?
Well, we would love to have you sign an MOU and
and I'm sorry, the 1707?
this one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you're talking about implementing it immediately.
I'd like to change the posting as soon as we get to an agreement. I can change the posting and get it out there yesterday.
Well, and for the folks that are internal
Right,
that
make
currently,
adjustment.
Because I can tell you right now that will cause the entire contract to fail. Without the other officers who've been there through it all on a day-to-day basis, the ones that are having to pick up those extra 40-something shifts for overtime, I realize they're getting paid time and a half to be there, but they'd also like that time to be with their families. So we will remove the 500,000 and 2,000 off of our wage proposal and drop it back to 3% across the board for the guys. We have to have something for them to maintain these people. Because minimum wage went up, even though I voted against it. Because I don't think you need $15 to be working at McDonald's or working like that in, in I don't know the proper term, but
I just remember that hasn't gone through legislation yet.
it went through a constitutional amendment. They got no choice but to implement it. But these guys got to have something. $150 boot allowance, while is a nice thing to have, and we'll take that in with the 3% to do away with the other side. But y'all need to go back to commissioners and find something. I was watching them in the meeting the other day. I know they reimbursed themselves for some CARES Act money for correctional salaries during the pandemic period of time. I'm pretty sure that there'll be some FEMA reimbursement for other salaries that happened during our storms, because, I mean, you're right. I have lived here for 61 years, and the first storm I can remember was Camille. and it was way away, but it was very bad here too, but unprecedented to what the damages that we've been seeing here. And of course, we didn't have Skanska in the bay. But these guys got to have something. While you say that our salary package is better than the others, it's identical to Santa Rosa's, with the exception they make, they start off at $19 an hour, we're starting at 17. We do have
2%.
2% that they don't have, but that still doesn't make up for the other. And, the Lee redemption, they put that out for the entire county to be paid in January already.
Well, that
No,
Howard County's
no.
80 hours, not 96.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, and the other thing is the policy says 40 hours.
yeah.
So this would be, I mean, if the board has the funds, you would have 96.
Yeah, which is 16 hours more than the other people will do.
No, it's 56. It's 56 more than what the
Policy's
policy
40.
allows.
Yeah,
The
I-
policy is 40,
But the email that was sent out for redemption was for 80 hours.
correct,
This
because
year.
that's what we took to the board this year was for 80 hours. That's correct.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out that in our previous proposal, Article 21 salaries, if you would look at subsection E,
I don't have that.
2101, subsection E.
Your proposal from what date?
Oh, boy. When
I
did
think
we
it's
first give
January.
this?
A lot
Well,
of-
No, that was when we TA'd some things. It was from the first time we met.
In November.
Would have been,
November 7th, 2018?
Oh.
Which article were you talking about?
2101.
I think that was on 10, my notes was 10,
August
22nd.
29th of 2019.
That's what I got. October 26th.
I believe that was when we all started negotiating with Ms. Gillig as the county administrator.
She said Article
2101. 2101. Subsection D.
Where are we at? Sorry, what was it?
Subject to board approval. Remember? Sorry, I included that verbiage.
Yeah.
D.
that's what you're saying.
2101
So that
D.
would-
No, for,
Oh, is that
he
20?
he said at 3%. This would be subject to board approval, it was in our proposal.
Oh, yeah.
And the point to that, I mean, I'm trying to be rude, I mean,
You mentioned an across-the-board wage increase. That was part of, that verb, I just wanted to point out that that verbiage was included in our proposal. Subject to the board's approval each year.
because the one I have that's listed 8/29/19, if we're talking about 21. Oh, okay. I was looking at B, I'm sorry, instead of E.
And that's what we're saying. We're going away. So, not there, it's not there.
Yeah. And that's well and good if they give one in October of 2021. But we're sitting here in November of 2020. And that's what we're negotiating for. I know it's too early, probably. I don't know if Ms. Childers has come up with any numbers as far as how the economy has been affected. I don't know if she does those kind of numbers. I know she does your TDC numbers and projections. I think those have improved some up until the time that the bridge broke, or got broke, however we want to put it. But I also understand those TDC numbers. A lot of that doesn't come back to the general budget because of TDC funds are specified where they go. I know they do, I think there may be a small portion of that that's available to the sheriff's office for some reimbursement of protection out there, but I'm not real sure about that. Because I do know, because having listened to the TDC stuff, it's kind of like the local option sales tax. It's very specific what you can use it for. So, those two things, other than if your TDC numbers are going up, then your numbers in other economic spots are.
Yeah, so
Right.
one of the things that we're doing is she has dedicated folks now that are looking at revenue. So I get a revenue report, I think specifically related to reductions related to COVID and Hurricane Sally. I get those. So we are actually focusing more on revenues now, and part of that is because I went back and looked at 07, 08 timeframe, because quite frankly, I would not be surprised if we're not at the beginning of a downturn. And so I'm trying to see if I can map that with the revenues, because last time when the downturn happened, it lagged about 18 months behind
Was it?
in the 09, 10
You're talking
timeframe.
about after Ivan? 'Cause
Well,
we- Because
it was the recession mostly, but,
we were brought on a Primrose wagon by a former commissioner who conned them into doing some things, nothing illegal, nothing immoral, but dropping rates because they knew that with 5,000 new houses being sold, and the real estate market went from 5,000 or 6,000 active homes on the rolls that went down to zero, because people with damaged houses from Ivan had to buy those houses, and people were selling at an inflated rate, and which also triggered, in about that 18-month period that you're talking about, people having to go back, because when they sold their house, they didn't realize they were going to have to buy in that inflated market, and then we had short sales.
yeah, and I think quite frankly, that you're speaking to, where the millage was reduced by 2 mills at that time, I'll be totally honest with you, has put this county in a serious financial situation.
And-
When times are good,
Yeah.
and that's when you can get 7 years of 3%, I'm just telling you, we are at maximum capacity for the income that we have coming in. And so barring some huge millage increase, which would be another, I think it's about 18 million a year is a mill for us. It'll depend on this year where that comes in at. That's $36 million that we don't recognize on an annual basis, that we haven't recognized for a number of years because of that action that was taken, that rollback.
Well, another thing I want to point out, just hopping back to leave it incentive, just to give you the dollar amount. If your lowest paid person in the bargaining unit sold back 96 hours, they would get $1,600 additional dollars for that year. If your highest paid person sold back all 96 of their hours, they would get $3,600. That's a pretty significant,
That's a one-time deal, though. It doesn't go into their high five calculations.
I mean, I get your perspective, I'm just trying to put a
Why
whole
would that
dollar
be
on it.
compensatory?
Because it's going to be looked at as a bonus.
It's earnings.
Wait, yeah, no, it can't be.
It's earned, but it's a one-time
It's
payout.
earnings.
Yeah, it's earnings, and
It's no
it can't
different
be
than you
looked at
take
as
a
a
week's
bonus.
vacation. It's earnings.
Statute.
But it will also reduce, if they decided to go into the drop in that period of time where they can only sell back 500 hours, and it's in that year, they're only going to be able, if they take 96, and they can only sell back 404 because they've already had a nominal payout.
Yeah, but it'd be considered one of their high years anyway, so they took that big bump.
Yeah, and I did want to
But
speak.
anyway, that's another conversation.
Well, I do want to speak to the CARES as well. So the CARES is one-time money. It's not recurring money. I can't build a budget on one-time money.
No, but it's replacing one-time monies. I mean, not one-time monies, but recurring monies.
Alan, if I may, Ms. Gillick, I'd like to go back to the opening salaries. I just want to understand your position on that. That you don't, and I don't mean to put words in anybody's mouth, you're not willing to come to an MOU on this, that way we can increase recruitment and hopefully draw some additional staff in to help our staff? I mean, that seems like it's, you're cutting your nose off to spite your face. I mean, I'm trying, this was drafted at my beckoning almost, because I know what it's gonna take to get more staff in here to fill these vacancies. So that's why I said, can we at least, and Ms. Gilly spoke of, can we at least get an MOU on this, that we're willing to do this regardless of what we do with the contract, because this is for our staff we're willing to adjust the compression issue that it creates at the bottom end. And this is the only way we're gonna fill these vacancies. Because we're competing with anybody who's got a clean record and can qualify right now. The market is wide open for those folks. And this keeps, by not doing this, this keeps us away from it. I mean, I just don't want you just to say no and not recognize that this is what's gonna fill those holes. Or hopefully fill those holes.
But our fear also is it's going to create some holes.
I don't understand that philosophy. You have to help me with that. If somebody leaves because the guy next to him gets a $5 or 5-cent raise, 50-cent raise, they're not surprised, they're not passing them. They're not gonna jump over top of anybody. We're gonna look at the first 5-year section, if you will, definitely the first 1-year section, and make sure there's no compression. And affect it.
And I think, Chief, what the issue is she says that we don't have the money.
I can absorb this in our budget.
Well,
For the
but
first year.
you see what I'm saying, that we don't have the money to give this, but we need to get people in here, we can get the money to do this, but we can't get the money to do.
But just for comparison, you're
Yeah.
talking $10 versus $10,000.
I get it. I get it. I mean, but at the same time, you know, we have to vote on it. So there's no, you know, we can say yay and then they can vote no and then we're back at the square
I just
one.
want you guys, when you take it back to your board, to understand, look, we're trying to fill the vacancies. This is an effort to fill the vacancies. You know, and you can't say, I can't get time off and say, we don't want the starting salary to help that process. I'm just trying, I gotta run the organization. It's my responsibility to fill those holes, all right? And we're doing everything we can, and this is just another means of attempting to fix it.
And this increase will impact approximately 70 current individuals in the collective bargaining unit, and then it will impact the vacancies that exist.
I gotta pitch it, because I know it's gonna help us.
Want to talk about it?
Mm-hmm.
No, let's go talk about it.
We'll be back in a couple minutes.
Thank you to get our, okay.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Testing, 1, 2, testing. This is the test.
Can't take them anywhere.
I bet you're one of those guys that spits down the stairs in a really tall building.
Oh.
That
You talking to me? Why are you looking at me?
Why are you putting that in my head? Yeah.
That has never been done at the main jail, trying to see if you can hit the floor.
Hit the floor before.
Never been done.
I'm impressed, Ms. Giddy. I'm impressed.
I have no carnal knowledge of that may be occurring. Here's what we're willing to do. If y'all will continue to try to look for some funds, we're gonna go back and hopefully with permission of Chief Powell, go to some musters and do a straw poll. Because even if we sign an MOU, we have to do a ratification vote. So if we can do that, and if it fails, then we know where we stand, which I pretty much can almost promise you I know where we stand. But that being said, we will pitch it in the light that y'all have given it to us, okay? Because if we go in there and pitch it in a bad light, then we've committed an unfair labor practice, and we will not do that. I promise you that. And then we can come back again and see where we go. But we would also like for y'all to look and see if there are any kind of funds available for the rest of the guys, because I agree with the chief that bringing up the bottom pay will help bring some people in. We have the Polar Magnet that sits out on 9 Mile Road that pulls people in from everybody. That would be Navy Federal. They're fixing that, amp up some more hiring because they're building those buildings keep going up. It's just crazy. But I think it's imperative that we get something for the rest of the employees. I mean, we totally appreciate the boot allowance, but that's basically $12.50 or less a month, if it's that much. I didn't put the calculator to it, so don't hold me to the penny. The annual leave buyout's only 16 hours more than everybody else in the county is getting. I realize it's more than what the policy says, but the actual policy that's in place for right now is the memo that was sent out of 80 hours. And you have to have 100 hours on the books to get it, so these new people who are coming in, who we have, that maybe have a year or two in, being millennials, will be lucky if they have 100 hours on the books.
You had to throw that in there.
I mean, I'm
As
a
he looked
realist.
at you.
I know.
It's, now, you're not, you're older than,
No, I'm a millennial.
yeah, but what I'm.
But I'm not the bad millennial.
What
Oh,
I'm,
Look at that, put that in there, Rick.
what I'm talking about is
There are no bad millennials.
is
Everyone's good.
the 18 to 23, 24-year-olds that we have, that if they get the sniffles, they bang. And the reason it's called banging in is because when the supervisor hopefully politely tells them, thank you, and they hang up, you bang the phone down at that point in time. That's why it's called banging in. Been there, almost broke my phone many times, but we've got to have something for the other guys. But we will take this back. We will set up another date. I hope you understand that we're trying to alleviate the process of saying we agree to everything, and then we have to come back and sit down at the table. I did sit down and read the things that I said I would read. And we can, after we get the straw poll, maybe we can discuss a little bit more. But if y'all can go back and take these commissioners to a shade meeting, squeeze their toes if you have to get a little bit more for these guys. Because it's going to be imperative to keep them, you know, me and the chief are going to agree to disagree, but you're going to lose people if they know they can get, and then again, I'm sorry, but you can plug your ears on the millennial, but the millennials will go somewhere for 50 cents. If they think they can get a raise for 50 cents, they'll go.
So it's all about what you could do for me.
And as far as the layoffs go, I'm not really concerned about layoffs for Escambia County because I know that Escambia County is basically physically sound for the current time. It could change if we do go into recession, but I'm still watching the oil prices and they're staying steady. 4 years ago, they were a lot higher than what they are right now. We're at $41 and some odd cents a barrel right now, and that's a good thing because that keeps the gasoline prices down. That keeps people coming in. But that's the best that we can do at the current time. We have to take it to a straw vote versus a formal vote, because if we go to if they approve it in a straw vote, then we will come back and, we will let you know. We're not going to lie to you. Our integrity means much, much, much to us. That's why we've always stood up, and we've done the right thing by the county. We've done it by backing the 1 cent sales tax all these years. And we're getting close to probably having brought in over the few years, maybe over $1 billion in the 1 cent sales tax funds that have really, really helped the infrastructure. And it's helped maintain equipment and stuff like that for us, because it was the right thing to do. I think the right thing for us to do is to take it to the straw vote, for your side to continue trying to find something else for the rest of the guys, and let's set another date and come back.
Okay, well, I would like to talk to our team real quick, because I want to make sure I leave you with everything that I need to leave you with, all the comments I need to leave you with. We did want to ask, if you want to look at, can we mention those four?
Well,
Did you already mention them?
No, but I think Mr. Miller addressed that and said that he had looked at them and that they might consider talking about
Okay,
that.
so
Yeah,
you're
when we
saying
come back.
those four are
When
the
we
ones
come
that you
back.
meant?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we articulated that clear.
Yeah.
That's 5, 7, 13, and 23.
Yeah, I think that's what
Okay,
And those are revised proposals that memorialize what I believe we verbally agreed to during the January session when we TA'd about, 16 articles. And those were 4 that we discussed and agreed to some changes, and I just made those revisions and distributed it in June.
the
And
only.
We're still waiting on it.
Yeah, I only came up with 1 or 2 questions that were.
okay.
that-
Well, then we probably don't need to caucus then. I think the only thing I wanted to make sure that I said as well was that, when the board was talking about the benefits, the insurance benefits and stuff like that, they did say they wanted to come up with alternatives to the benefits because they weren't going to be doing raises this year when they did the budget. So they did say that from the dais. So when you're saying you want to talk about transparency, I wanted to make sure that I reiterated what they've said publicly as well.
Because while we may not be here in person, I am watching y'all smiling faces on TV as much as I can.
I wear a mask, so,
Well-
yeah.
I've seen that mask.
I'm glad I could entertain you.
Oh, it's not y'all that entertain me, it's the other 5 that totally entertain me.
And so one of the things that I have continued to say is that as we're talking about revenues and expenditures, one of the things that we're looking at is to see, we're going to look at the trends and see how, when we benchmark year over year, how many people have paid their taxes, their property taxes at a certain time. Because like I said, we are looking at the revenues of like LOST, TDT, revenue, state revenue sharing. I mean, we have a whole list of taxes that we keep, that we monitor. Property taxes, since they just came due, that's what we're trying to watch, to see if there's a lag in terms of the people paying. Now, if people have their real estate escrowed, probably not a problem. Other people, I mean, I've talked to people on Perdido Key and Pensacola Beach that, having just some issues.
Well,
So,
we have.
so hopefully by the next time we meet, we'll have another month under our belt of looking at the new taxes, just to see if we're tracking from that perspective. Now, I've been told we may not see it till next year, but I'm looking to see what they're looking at this year, so. All right. Anything else for the good of the order? I'd love to. Anything? Okay. All right.
Well, we do appreciate y'all coming, and next time I'll have the bigger coffee cups.
Oh, are they generated? Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, yeah.
And we'll try to accomplish that straw poll here within the next couple weeks.
Okay.
Sooner the better, bro.
Oh, I understand, and we appreciated y'all. I know originally y'all had said that we had some issues with getting this meeting done. I hope my email wasn't too snide coming back, but
No, we were already trying to be perfectly honest with you, but I didn't want to give you false hope. See, I won't lie to you either.
I know you represent a lot of different counties, but how many counties do you represent that have 5 unions in their county?
how many?
Wow.
A lot of them have none,
Correct?
and we can't help that you have 5, but you do have